Now that you're nearly best friends with your local intellectual property attorney, it's time to take that wisdom you've gained, add it to what you did in outlining 3 different strategies, and put it all together, making sure you're choosing the one you're going to actually act on and sustain. What I'm really saying is you are now free to change your mind. You've learned a lot about what it's going to take to sustain the path that you chose a lesson or 2 ago. It's worth rethinking now, and we need to do that in a couple of ways. First of all, go all the way to the top of your page and look at your business objective. Did you learn something as you were looking at all these intellectual property considerations, what it's going to take to make it happen and be sustainable, that changes your thinking about what you actually ought to try and accomplish? If you have, don't ignore that little bell that's ringing. Go back and rewrite it, rethink it, get something that's consistent with everything you now know. But even if you don't have to go back that far, you have to prioritize each of these paths. And you've got to do that along a couple of dimensions. One is, do you have the ability to do what you want to do? It's, different lawyers have given me different estimates, but it's somewhere in the $2 to $5 million price tag even to go through the process of being sued or suing someone over intellectual property. You don't want to miss the fact that you can't do what you said you were going to do without violating someone else's intellectual property. That's a disaster of major proportions. The second thing you need to do is, do you have the ability to create a barrier to keep somebody else from taking your value away from you? That's when people are making investments in new technology and new products, that's one of the very first questions they ask. What is the intellectual property strategy and barrier that you can create? Many of them look to patents if they're talking about new technology as the primary way to create that. But it's certainly not the only way, and you can have a plan that doesn't include a patent, but don't just make that up yourself. The last thing that you could have uncovered is the answer to both of those is no. I don't have a way to do this without violating somebody's. I don't have a way to create a great barrier all by myself unless I partner with this person who could be a problem for me or could be a help to me, and we can put our intellectual property together and have a killer solution that's better and more protectable. Intellectual property considerations often lead you to reconsider what part of this you're going to do yourself, who you're going to partner with. Those are all great outcomes to be knowingly and competently assessing. Then all that's really left is putting it all down on paper. Slide number 2 gives you a format for capturing your winning response. Now I want to let you in on a little secret. The reason we had you create 3 strategies and not just one is for multiple reasons, 2 main ones. First of all, we want to jar your thinking loose, make you get out of your assumed or comfort zone and really think about, why am I approaching this market this way, and how else could I approach it? How sure am I that I want to do it this way instead of another way? Maybe that's better, I just hadn't thought about it. And of course, that's probably the most important thing. But there's a second benefit. When you get around to standing in front of some tough-minded investors or other partners who want to evaluate your business, one of the most annoying things is if you looked at 3 different strategies and the wise guy in the back of the room says, well, I think you should have done that, and you didn't get to bring that up, they did, then you look bad. Everything you say at that point is trying to defend yourself. But if you lead with, there are 3 ways we could go after this. These are the ones that make the most sense. And by the way, we picked this one because of this, and this reason. Then you're one step ahead of that guy who can't take the air out of your balloon. So it's a great advantage for making a convincing presentation, because people then know you did enough homework to know you have the right path. That's important to get the right partnership. Remember, our goal is not just a sound business plan, it's eager and inspired partners as well. The slide is composed of 3 rows. So all we're going to do here is document the advantages and disadvantages of each proposed strategy, what decision we made, and what was the key thing that drove that decision. In that sense, this is just about documentation. We've already walked through the process of getting to this clarity and just re-evaluated it in light of IP. So again, just documentation, putting it in words that allows you to convey that crisply and efficiently to whoever you need to talk to. But there is one more element that we want to use this juncture in our journey to illustrate. And that is, you now have completed 2 chapters of a convincing story. And it has to still be elegant. It still has to flow from beginning to end. You've got a customer need story and a my solution story. Here's how I'm going to make this all happen. So the question you have to ask, do you get that effect? Does it flow in that way and make one seamless story? If not, a couple of diagnostic tools here. First reason that could be is you've learned something that means you're actually thinking differently about the value of doing what you said you were going to do. Maybe it's not the same as you thought it would be, because as you work through the strategy and especially the IP side of it, you said, you know what, there's not as much value on the table for me in that serving that set of customers as I thought there would be. That need might not be the one I should aim at. It might be the one right next door that I had discounted. In that case, great. Just go back to the beginning of Module 2 and redo it. This is a very iterative process. Nobody I've coached has gotten through this from beginning to end and not had to reiterate. That's the beauty of the process. It triggers the questions that help you realize that something you're saying now doesn't line up with something you said earlier. You don't want somebody else to point that out to you. You want to discover it and fix it. So if you need to, go back to the top of Module 2 and redo it, and then go back through Module 3 and do that part. But the other thing that could be wrong is you just might not have adequately matched your strategy to that need. The market need might have been perfect. You had that clear. You know what you're going to go after. But none of these 3 strategies really quite nail it, and you need to go back and rework this side of it. When you do get to the place where it's one smooth story, then you're there, and you're ready to leave this section and start putting it into action. That's what Module 4 is about. That's what we're going to talk about when we get back together.